still watching Nile Cruise, and the last segment we discussed a very interesting topic about the feng shui and the energy and positive energy. Now moving to positive news also, and lots of good things about the the Museum of the Egyptian Antiquities in Cairo, which is celebrating the 114th anniversary. It was inaugurated since 1902, and it houses more than 120,000 items. And there is a lot of good news also about having the museum opening late night. We'll be discussing this topic with the former director of the Egyptian Museum. We're joined with Dr. Mahmoud Al-Halwagi. I'd like to thank you very much for joining us. Pleasure.
Thank you.
But first, before discussing this important issue, we are going to move to a quick report about the Egyptian Museum and coming back, so please stay tuned.
Under the care of the Ministry of Antiquities, a celebration was organized in the Egyptian Museum on the occasion of its 114th anniversary and was attended by Minister of Antiquities Khalid Al-Anani, Minister of Tourism Muhammad Yahya Rashid, and a big number of ambassadors, diplomats, and public figures. Before the celebration, all the attendants went on a tour inside the museum to check the major projects within the framework of the Ministry of Antiquities and the government through the restoration work.
It's a message of peace. We are now in Tahrir Square. We're opening for the first time Cairo Museum twice by night. Thursday and Sunday. We are celebrating the 114th anniversary with the media from all the world, with ambassadors, cultural attaché, with a high representation from the Egyptian government, the Egyptian parliament. We are more than 500 people here today, so Tahrir is safe, Egypt is safe. We are waiting back for tourists, millions of visitors like before.
A lot of events and activities been held in the celebration, including a temporary exhibition entitled Selim Hassan in honoring the legend of Egyptology, and a number of distinctive performances of Reda Group for Popular Arts.
This museum, even it's very aged, but still have vivid life and events, such events we saw in front of us. We celebrate that these museums, the housing of all antiquities, represented a very great culture, and this museum will never die. And we call Egyptians to know their culture, to know how greatness they were and how greatness they will be in the future.
المتحف المصري بالقاهرة معلم بارز بين متاحف العالم.
For the first time, the Egyptian Museum, that contains the world's most extensive collection of pharaonic antiquities, will open its door at night as a message for the whole world that Egypt is the land of peace and security. Shiro Bikir, Nile TV International.
And resuming the second segment of the Nile Cruise with Dr. Mahmoud Al-Halwagi, former director of the Egyptian Museum. Hello, doctor, and welcome to our show.
Thank you.
Okay.
You want to go ahead?
Go.
Usually it's ladies first.
No, it's okay.
Anyways, so Dr. Mahmoud, I'd like to ask you about, the 114th. We usually celebrate this every year, the anniversary of the Egyptian Museum. It's fascinating. It's well known to a lot of people all around the world. How does it feel, the celebration this year?
In fact, the celebration this year was wonderful. Since 2002, the centenary of the Egyptian Museum, we started to celebrate such great occasion to celebrate the inauguration of the Egyptian Museum in Cairo, which established on 1897 and was inaugurated to the visitors in 1902 in 15th of November. This year we celebrated the 114th anniversary. It was a great occasion, and it was a big celebration. As we saw in the report, that we invited many of the Egyptologists and museologists, all the ambassadors, and also His Excellency Minister of Antiquities declared announced about the continuation of opening the museum in the evening from 5 p.m. till 9 p.m.
Which is very unusual. It's
This was the most impressive point announced during this celebration.
and it means a lot, Dr. Mahmoud. It means there is a lot of efforts going, there's a lot of employees are going to be working day and night in shifts. It means a lot. There's a lot behind having this established, the lights, the expenses. So it's not an easy decision. It's not about just opening in the evening.
It was not an easy decision. As you mentioned, it needs more work of the staff. We did not hire a new staff, but the same. But we asked the staff to divide or to split to be able to manage this new opening hours. Also, there was a big project to improve electronic system and lighting system, and there were a lot of efforts exerted before inauguration of such opening.
Yes.
And this was it was aimed to encourage more not only foreign visitors but also Egyptians,
Local.
to fill the gap in the evening, in the afternoon, for those who are busy in the morning, whether they are Egyptians or foreigners. Some families cannot have the time in the morning, so they can have the chance to visit the museum with their kids, all the family members, also the foreigners who are coming just for 1 or 2 days for just business. They cannot have the time in the morning to visit archaeological sites or museums. So this will help a great number of visitors, whether they are Egyptians or foreigners, to have such wonderful occasion to visit the museum in the afternoon or in the evening from 5 p.m. till 9 p.m.
Dr. Mahmoud, there was a shocking news of course, from the Egyptian Museum, as one of the members of the Egyptian Museum has stick the Tutankhamun, the king, chins with a epoxy. So, and it actually did not shock the Egyptians only, but the whole world. So can you reassure people about the status of the king right now? How is he? And his chin, of course.
I would like to...
How is his chin? That's the question.
I would like to make it clear, because it was not all information about this item was not 100% correct, because this was I mean, the media, the international media, they meant to have such campaign against Egypt and against Egyptian antiquities, because we started and we launched a great campaign to restore and to regain our lost antiquities, our stolen treasures from different countries.
But sir, it was a mistake. You
There-
cannot regret it.
Yes,
A mistake
yes,
happened.
Let me tell you, there was a mistake,
Yeah.
but it was not as it was
Conveyed or,
as it was declared to the whole world. The mistake that they use just a bit, the epoxy they used, the amount was a little bit more than it should be.
but it is the right epoxy.
It was epoxy is applied by all museums all over the world, and it is not a wrong material. But the mistake was the amount. And even after restoration for the false beard of the mask of King Tutankhamun, it was the same material but in different with different amount and different formula.
So it went well.
It's now well, and it was also well, but the amount of the epoxy which was seems not so good, and that's why we realized that it should be restored again.
Yes, but in those cases, very sensitive topic, you should have the top expert doing this conservation. Not someone who lacks experience, maybe, because like you mentioned, the amount, it has to be really calculated, it has to be looked at by scientists and observing this process of conservation.
You are exactly right, because that's what happened in the restoration.
Okay.
We give the restorers enough time, enough new equipment.
Yes.
The first restoration was made in a hurry, and they had no time to make research, scientific research, to adjust the material. This was the mistake, that the restorer, they are good enough, but they were asked to finish this quickly, and it was only like 30 minutes, this was the wrong decision were taken by the authority at that time. But in the second restoration, there was plenty of time, about 2 months, and the restorers made scientific research. They prepared the efficient material and the amount and the formula of epoxy. That's why it looks much better than the first restoration. So we have the experts, but the mistake is just the time. This was the only mistake, I believe.
Sir, also talking about the King Tutankhamun, we've heard that the chair of the king and lots of his stuff are not the real ones in the Egyptian museums. They are replica, and the real ones were stolen or taken or replaced. So tell us if this is true or not.
I would like to ensure that all the objects of the treasures of the tomb of King Tutankhamun are originals from the tomb since the discovery in 1922 by the British archaeologist Howard Carter. This was the only complete collection arrived to the museum, because the Egyptian government at that time in 1922 decided to keep the whole collection in Egypt, because there was a system of division between Egypt and the foreign expeditions and excavations. So this was the only decision were taken, that the Egyptian government insisted that the whole collection should stay in Egypt. Since that time, all the treasures of King Tutankhamun and its tomb are on display at the Egyptian Museum in Cairo, and they are all I can tell you that there were some news telling, as you said, that some originals are out of Egypt, and which is completely wrong. And you are, and all the audience are welcome to the Egyptian Museum to make sure themselves that they
They won't be able to know if they are real or not.
The one who said that, or the one who believes that, did not visit the museum.
Yes. The museum is really rich, with the amount of artifacts and the pieces within the museum. It's very valuable. It's a very valuable experience. What do you aspire, as a former director, what do you aspire for the Egyptian Museum? What changes should be done to attract more visitors and to have the experience more enhanced, or more, a lively experience that gives the whole story?
It's a good question, because we are now, the Egyptian Museum houses more than 160,000 real artifacts, not 120. This is the biggest museum.
Despite the fact that there is a lot of artifacts moved to the Grand Egyptian Museum.
Let me tell you, beside this, we have two major projects: the Grand Egyptian Museum in Giza,
yes,
and the Egyptian Museum of the Civilization Museum in Fustat. These are two major projects. They will be inaugurated, like the Grand Egyptian Museum will be inaugurated in beginning of 2018, and the work will end in the end of 2017. The Museum of Civilization will start to display the first exhibition by the new year, in about January, inshallah, 2017. Because the museum houses this huge of antiquities, so some amount of these artifacts will be moving to the Grand Egyptian Museum. For example, the collection of Tutankhamun will go to Giza, and the collection of royal mummies will go to the Fustat Museum, and some other artifacts will move to these new museums. This is a new challenge for the Egyptian Museum in Tahrir Square, because we will start to re-display. We will make a re-scenario of the display for the museum
in the Egyptian
here, because it will stay.
So it's more or less like enhance the experience and have it a unique experience, different than the one in the Grand Egyptian Museum.
Exactly. There is a big difference between the new museums and the Egyptian Museum. The Egyptian Museum in Tahrir Square is the design and the furniture is belonging to the old style and the old fashion. But we having a project in the Egyptian Museum in Cairo is to survive the museum and to keep it as it was at the inauguration, at the foundation. So we try to preserve the whole showcases and as it is, with some renovation and some like we make new glass for the windows with UV filters. We repainted the walls, and we take off about 10 layers of old paint, and we discovered the real painting of the wall, which was in 1901, and we discovered many decorations. And so we are having the project is to survive the survival of the Egyptian Museum. And also we have to re-display and to make a new scenario for the display after moving about 50% of its artifacts to the new museums in Giza and in Fustat.
Yes.
Dr. Mahmoud, we've heard that the archaeological experts have announced that they discovered a new village, a new ancient Egyptian village. Do you have any information about this discovery?
Where exactly?
We have no details. They said they discovered a new, and it's going to make a change in the information about the Egyptian antiquities, and it will add more knowledge to the history that we have.
Let me tell you that every day we have a new discovery, whether they are tombs or villages in different places in Egypt, in Saqqara and in Luxor. These sites are full of archaeological sites, and we still have plenty of undiscovered tombs and villages, especially villages, because we have lack of such settlements or civil settlements, because ancient Egyptians, they were concerned in their second life. Therefore, they built their tombs with such heavy, strong stones and or cut rock stone in the mountains, yes, because they believed that the eternal life is the second life. So they built their houses with mud bricks. Mm-hmm. They believed that the first life is so short. So they dedicated their first life to serve their second life. So they built such wonderful tombs.
Well, actually, Dr. Mahmoud, we ran out of time. Dr. Mahmoud, the former director of the Egyptian Museum, thank you very much for joining us, and welcome once again to Nile Cruise.
Thank you, and thank you for all our audience.
Thank you, sir.
Very much.
Pleasure to have you. Let's move down to the upcoming report all around Luxor, the capital of tourism.